I have always believed the best stories are not just written down, they're cooked. Every city has its rules. In New York, don't block the subway doors. In Los Angeles, never admit you don't do yoga. And in Chicago, don't you dare put ketchup on a hot dog. And so I found myself at Wrigley Field this summer, perched between ivy-covered walls and bleacher seats, holding a Chicago dog wrapped in wax paper. Mustard, relish, onions, tomato wedges, a pickle spear that looked like it just might escape at any moment, sport peppers tucked like punctuation marks, and not a drop of ketchup in sight. I was born in Kewanee, Illinois, a small town about 150 miles southwest of Chicago. My mom's side of the family was Irish, Gallagher's through and through. Growing up, Gallagher Street was more than just a place name. It was a reminder that identity is rooted in both where you come from and what you hold on to. In Chicago, that identity just happens to be wrapped in a poppy seed bun. And it made me wonder, are food rules really about taste? Or are they about who we are when no one's watching? I'm Jeannie Jo, and this is Food in the Story, where the best stories are always cooked before they're told. If Houston has fajitas, as discussed last week, Chicago has the hot dog. But not just any hot dog, the Chicago-style dog, a rule book on a bun. The origins go back to the 1893 World Columbian Exposition in Chicago, where millions of visitors tasted Vienna-style sausages sold by Austrian-Hungarian immigrants Emil Rachel and Sam Landini. They founded Vienna Beef and built a company that still dominates the hot dog market today. By the Great Depression, the hot dog had become a working-class staple. For a nickel or a dime, you could buy a Vienna beef frank nestled in a poppy seed bun, piled high with toppings that stretched both flavor and value. It wasn't just lunch. It was survival food dressed as abundance. The toppings reflected Chicago's immigrant mosaic. Mustard, a nod to German sausage traditions. Onions, cheap, pungent, ambiguous in Eastern European cooking. Neon green relish, sweet, tangy, unmistakably Chicago. Tomato wedges, the garden influence tied to Italian neighborhoods. Pickle spear, Jewish deli traditions reimagined. Sport peppers, a kick from Mexican and Southern immigrant foodways. And celery salt, the final flourish as seasoning common in Chicago's deli culture. Together, these 7 toppings made what the locals called "dragged through the garden," a hot dog that looked like it had been pulled through a backyard harvest. The Chicago dog is not just about ingredients. It is about identity and belonging. During the Depression, hot dog stands were community anchors. For working families, grabbing a dog dragged through the garden was a way to eat cheap but still feel a sense of dignity. For immigrants, it was a way of layering flavors from the old country into the new world. By the post-war years, the Chicago dog had become a citywide emblem. Vendors popped up outside factories, at Maxwell Street Market, and of course near ballparks. Eating a hot dog at Wrigley Field became much a part of the game as the 7th inning stretch. And that's where my story comes back in. This summer, I stood in line at Wrigley. The air was heavy with anticipation. Ivy bright against the outfield walls. A city buzzing with loyalty for the Cubs. And in my hands, a hot dog so piled with toppings, it demanded 2 hands and absolute concentration. As I took my first bite, I thought about Gallagher Street, about Kewanee, about my family's Irish stubbornness and Chicago's insistence on its food rules. Maybe ketchup was never really the issue. Maybe it was about a city staking its claim, saying, "This is who we are." So, how do you make a Chicago dog at home? Well, of course, you follow the rules. What you will need: 4 Vienna beef hot dogs, 4 poppy seed buns, yellow mustard, a half cup white onion, a half cup neon green sweet relish, 4 dill pickle spears, 8 tomato wedges, 8 sport peppers, and celery salt. What you will need to do: first, prepare the buns. If you have poppy seed buns, steam them until soft and warm. If you only have plain buns, make your own poppy seed version. I'll share that in a little bit. Then steam your hot dogs. In Chicago, grilling is for burgers. Steam keeps the frank juicy and faithful to tradition. You will assemble your hot dog in this order: mustard, onion, relish, pickle spear, tomato wedges, sport peppers, celery salt. And last but not least, do not add ketchup, not even secretly. Okay, so if you can't find Vienna beef, go with any 100% beef frank, but skip the mixed meat blends. If you don't have access to sport peppers, you can substitute pickled serranos or banana peppers, but don't skip the heat. Neon relish can be faked by mixing standard sweet relish with a drop of blue food coloring. And if you don't have poppy seed buns, make your own. You preheat your oven to 350, line a baking sheet with parchment, place plain hot dog buns side by side on the sheet. In a small bowl, you're going to beat 1 egg, brush the tops of the buns with an egg wash, and sprinkle generously with poppy seeds. Bake for 5 minutes, then remove and set aside. When you step back, you'll see a hot dog that looks more like a garden than a meal. And that's the whole point: abundance, pride, and identity on a bun. As mustard dripped onto my hand at Wrigley, I realized something. The Chicago dog is less about the toppings and more about the rules. And maybe that's true in life too. We all have our no ketchup, that one thing we won't compromise on. Not because it changes everything, but because it changes something in us. In Chicago, no ketchup became shorthand for loyalty, for identity, for belonging. It's not about the sauce, it's about the story. Maybe that's the real gift of a Chicago dog. In a city of steel and sweat, a simple Frankfurter became a garden of immigrant traditions, a Depression-era lifeline, a baseball game ritual, and a rule book that says, "This is who we are." Every food has its story, and this one is ready for seconds. I am Jeannie Jo, and this has been Food and the Story. If you liked today's episode, give it a like, a share, or a subscribe. And come back next Wednesday when we head to Philadelphia, where cheesesteaks are less about the cheese and more about the rivalry. Until then, keep cooking, keep tasting, and keep telling the stories that matter.